Right. Even as lawmakers, we know that there are a lot of lawmakers, a lot of Indians who've done well for themselves, Indian Americans, Indian origin Americans who've done well for themselves. But do you think America is really ready for Indian Americans, for the brown race, so to say, to be a part of this entire system, the electoral system? Or is it more difficult being an Indian American?
I would say, I mean, it's always difficult, but I would just note that America has had Indian Americans since at least the 1700s. There's a long history of people from India coming here and being and being part of this country. And there's a long history of that, and we should not forget the influence that Indian Americans have had on American thought, or whether it's, for example, folks like Emerson and Thoreau reading the Bhagavad Gita, Vivekananda coming in the 1800s here, or even in the 1700s, I believe that there was a lady named Mary Emmons who ended up having children with Aaron Burr, one of our founding fathers. And we've had so many examples of that. And I think it's a matter of educating folks about our own history and showing that America has always been multicultural in this way. So I think what I'm doing here is just a continuation of that long history we have had of being inspired and welcoming folks from around the world.
We'll talk about India, America, but before that, your own country, the United States of America, looks quite polarized. Should Trump win the primaries, how do you see the entire election itself pan out between Trump and Biden? There is a lot of criticism that Biden has received in the recent past, and you being a Democratic candidate, as also having Vivek Ramaswamy on the other side batting for Trump. So how do you see this entire polarized world where we see two Ramaswamis, both in the polar opposite sides?
I would say voters ultimately look at the incumbent and they see how has the incumbent been doing, and based on that they'll decide who they want to vote for. And if you compare the difference between now and 2020, I think it's very different. If you look at 2020, we had an incumbent, President Trump, who did a lot of problems in terms of dealing with the COVID pandemic, a lot of issues where he would make things up about election security. All that rhetoric on the campaign trail really hurt him. It's what caused Biden to win. And I think now, if you compare that to what's happened today, sure, there's always criticisms of everyone in terms of what they could have done and couldn't have done, but I don't think it's at all comparable to what President Trump was in 2020. So I believe that voters will just see the records, and the records will speak for themselves.
Well, Ashwin, you're a youth candidate. There are a lot of youth voters that you'd be looking at tapping. What's the strategy over here? Is there a strategy in how you're going about things? Are you looking at tapping into the youth voters, or is it more broad-based? Explain to us your strategy to win this election.
First of all, our most important strategy, I'd say, is making sure that Democrats turn out. So people who already are in line with these values should know that, hey, there's someone named Ashwin Ramasami down ballot, and we should vote for them, because a lot of people will just vote for the president, but then they'll forget to vote down ballot. So that's the most important part to start with. And in addition to that, we're going to do lots of outreach to young folks. Given my age, it's much easier to relate to people who are in high school, for example, or even teachers as well, because they know that I came from that system. There's 6 high schools in our district, and we plan to reach out to as many of those students as possible, and not only ask them to vote if they can, but also to tell their families and their friends about the campaign. And we hope this will not only help us get more votes, but also give them a bigger voice in the policymaking process.
Right. Why the Senate route? Why not the Congress?
I would say it takes a lot more resources in order to run for national office in Congress. So it's much harder to start that kind of route. I'd also say that a lot of things happen at the state level, which people don't realize. People often focus on the federal, on the US Congress level, and they don't realize that the state government controls things like education budgets, transportation, a lot of healthcare as well. And we need talented people at the state level as well. That's actually why I left the federal government and decided to do more state work. I think we need to start at that level in order to make any kinds of larger change.